You have the distinct honor and privilege, I guess, at this point, to be listening to the Breaking Down Security podcast. And I'm Brian Brake, of course, as this week is the illustrious Professor Dr. Adjunct Professor Amanda Berlin, of course.
What? Doctor?
What? No.
Doctor?
And hacker. Hackerus.
Okay. All right.
And malware hunter extraordinaire, Mr. Betcher, of course. Brian.
Hello.
Yeah. So this week, very interesting. Ms. Berlin's second session of her Disrupting the Kill Chain went very, very nicely.
I was super happy with it.
So
it's taken me a lot longer to go through the material than I thought.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think maybe because I ramble a bit when there's people. I mean, because there's actually people interacting with me, as opposed like when I gave it like the short version of it. Mm-hmm. It was just to myself basically because nobody was actually going and following through all of the step-by-step stuff. I was just playing the recording of me doing it.
Oh, I see.
All the demos. It wasn't like and. Nobody was really asking questions, and that's what I really, really like about this one. It's way more interactive.
Did you have the opportunity to like reverse it and get people to ask questions, or was it just like they paid to show up and they just sat there and didn't want to talk because it was everybody in meat space?
It was really weird because it's on. It was a Safari Online one.
Oh, okay.
The last one I did, it wasn't the same material, but the last one I did was on Safari Online, and it was just like you're talking for a couple hours to an empty room, and no, like maybe they'll ask one or two questions, but I think for the most part they're just I don't know why they're there. I really don't. A lot of them were foreign.
Oh, right.
Which was weird.
That kind of sucks because, you really only get out of online training what you put into it. So if you don't put anything into it, you're hoping that the teacher gets the point across and that you understand it. And I don't know if it's a fear of asking the question and being ridiculed or what have you, or people just don't know how to phrase it in the form of a tweet so that, it's not like, story book time or whatever. But
well, really, even on their thing, you can put in anonymous questions to their little app.
Okay.
So it'll just like pose a question and you can answer it inside their little chat window, and you can either, send it out to everybody. You can reread it so everybody knows, or you can just send it to that individual person. I had one person ask the most ridiculous questions ever.
Now,
you
look.
say there's no stupid questions, but literally they asked me if implementing phishing and user education would have prevented Snowden from leaking all those documents.
Oh, so it's kind of trolly kind of thing, just completely.
No, I just don't think they had any clue.
Wow. Okay. See, now you're wigging me out because I got my SANS class starting the 1st of March, and I've got a handful of people in the class, but I'm.
Yeah, but those are people that are going to be in the class, though.
Yeah, no, man.
I think there was like a language barrier, maybe problem. I really don't know. It was just the one person, though. I found it kind of funny.
Okay, well, hopefully my class will go better.
I've given a couple of talks online, and you don't get any feedback, and especially if there's no video.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you're just talking away. You're talking, and 45 minutes later, you get to the end, and you're like, everybody get that? Was I on mute the whole time? Or
yeah,
right.
You're wondering.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you don't get that feedback, right? When you don't get the nods or the confused looks, then you want to slow down and say, okay, there's something you're not getting. It's that visual cues that you look for, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I really liked about this one is, people were like, "Oh, what was that thing that you just covered? You went too fast," or I was able to, go back and kind of cover things, and it didn't necessarily have to be a super strict format.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it also helps to have I've been told that in big rooms, it's always good to have that friendly face on the front row. So I know I was in there for the first session. I couldn't do it for the second session because I had some stuff to do at work. Hold on, I'm at work now. Oh, wait, now I'm back. So you didn't see me, but I literally swiveled my chair and I'm at work, and I'm now not at work. But yeah, I helped bridge that gap. And plus we have the community from Slack. So a lot of the folks are in the Slack already. So we're all kind of comfortable with one another. So I guess that's one advantage of having the environment that we have that's conducive to learning. So so let me ask you a question about the second session. You're basing a lot of this training off of the attack matrix. I found this thing called CAPEC, which is Common Attack Pattern Enumeration and Classification. It comes from MITRE as well, but
is that the new thing?
I don't know. It's
I know they added a new thing to MITRE that somebody linked me, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Yeah, it says it's a community resource for identifying and understanding attacks. It says understand how your adversary operates is essential to effective cybersecurity. Drink. CAPEC is a comprehensive dictionary and classification taxonomy of known attacks that can be used by analysts, developers, testers, and educators to advance community understanding and enhance defenses. It sounds almost like the common weakness enumerations from OWASP, but and then like attack, the matrix is like the OWASP top 10, I don't know if that's an analogous, but that was what I was understanding. This is more of a open source kind of TTP database versus attack, which tries to classify all the available attacks that are out there. So I'll put a link in the show notes because we kind of went far afield on that and pretty much everything we're talking about right now. So
yeah, that was a wild pitch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I kind of want to come back to this at a later show, but
it's a really shitty website. I can tell you that.
And there's our explicit tag. 7 minutes and 57 seconds in. All right.
Oh, come on. It's fine.
We're grown-up ass people here, so.
Great.
All right. So, breaking down incident response, our second podcast of the year for that one is coming up, and everybody seems to enjoy it quite immensely.
Yeah.
The feedback has been really great.
And the feedback we're getting just volume issues, and no one's had any like, oh, I hate the whatever segment y'all did, or I don't like that Tyler guy, or whatever. No, we've had really good feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are getting really a lot of listens that must be really nice for your first episode. Getting a couple thousand downloads on your first episode is really nice.
Pretty good.
I would have loved to have had that on our first show, but I think we had 2 downloads.
But nobody knew who you were.
That is a fair assessment of that statement. Yes.
Now people know who we are. We're famous.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. Yeah, we're doctors and stuff.
Yeah. Leather-bound books and office smells of rich mahogany. So, all right. So, what do you guys know what you're going to talk about next week?
No.
Okay.
We've got a whole list of topics, and we'll pick one, and we do have some interesting articles and things to talk about along with that. So we'll try to pick a topic that kind of falls in line with the news of the month, the newsworthy items, and go from there.
Cool.
So yeah.
Any interesting malware that you can talk about that you're not going to talk about on the IR podcast?
Probably. Did get an interesting one this week. It was a Word doc, but it had inside it RTF, rich text format. And I didn't do a deep dive into this one, but if your Microsoft Office wasn't upgraded, which the lab machine that I had, I guess, was a couple months behind on Office, and it just ran it. No macros, no warnings. The document wouldn't even open, but it certainly executed the script. It gave me some error like, hey, I can't open this. So you're looking at it going, well, okay, can't open it. must be some error, and you move on.
Right.
Little do you know that your system is completely owned
right.
by a remote access Trojan. So that was very interesting. I hadn't seen that before, but I did open the document in Notepad, and there was some gibberish followed by some rich text in there. You can open it in WordPad as well.
WordPad?
I don't think it'll. Well, at least I couldn't get it to infect the system using WordPad. I got a different kind of error saying, hey, this script is weird or whatever like that. But in Microsoft Word, it sure did open up. And in fact, now Windows 10 fully patched, it didn't. So yeah, my suggestion is upgrade your Office. There is some, I couldn't nail down the KB or whatever, but there's something in there.
Right. Okay.
That you need to patch.
So yeah. for testing stuff like that, do you have a bunch of different Windows hosts on different patch levels that you try it on and like roll back?
Yeah, I usually have a fully patched Windows 7 and a fully patched Windows 10. But the Windows 7 Office didn't get patched like within time or whatever. So that one infected, but the Windows 10 didn't.
Huh. Okay.
Very interesting.
I didn't have a chance because we got some other malware that we were looking at as well to go back and say, okay, what kind of patch level do you need, that kind of thing. But just be aware that not only you have to patch Windows, you have to patch Office too. Don't forget.
Right.
Otherwise, you could have systems running around out there that are infected, and these came through phishing emails and things like that. So,
very cool. Speaking of phishing, I have a story. Gather around, children. It's story time. Uncle Brian's going to tell you a somewhat true story. So, I'm sitting at work, and a friend of mine emails me. He works at another company very similar to ours. And he says, get this. Our director of finance just emailed the HR department asking about the CEO's salary. And I was like, what? Okay. So I wrote back. I was like, yeah, okay. So, and he's like, yeah, he did it from his Gmail account, which is a no-no, obviously. Because that's typical of a whaling kind of attack where, somebody from a Gmail account says, hi, I'm Bill. And, Bill is, of course, the head of finance or the, head bean counter or whatever. And, it's the same MO. So, of course, he said, we had to run IR on this, thinking that we're getting whaled. And no, come to find out, the director of finance just likes to send random emails to HR asking for, the CEO's payment information or salary information. So after they slapped this guy down a little bit, I asked him, well, what happened to the HR lady? And he's like, oh no, she sent that over to the fish at. And I was like, well, that's pretty awesome. Do you guys do training on that? And he's like, yeah, we just did training a couple months ago. And we were, really excited about that. And I was like, did you guys reward her for that? Because that's the kind of stuff you reward people for. And he's like, no, but we really should think about doing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you damn right. Because if that had happened to probably anybody else at any other company, you could have been in all kinds of hot water for that. But
take dinner for two at least.
Yeah, no joke. Or, a hot cocoa sampler or something. I don't know. But, I thought it was very cool. And I, emailed him back, asked him if I could use the show on the air, and he said yes. But he said, yeah, they're definitely going to look at some kind of remuneration program when their people do the right thing versus when they do the wrong thing.
Yeah, because that news spreads like crazy.
Oh God!
When you get something free for doing something super simple.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It just
Yeah. So for all those who say the phishing training doesn't work, and I'm here to tell you, that story. It did come true, and it did happen. So, don't ever doubt your training, especially if you try to give it on a semi-regular basis. So, We actually do have a topic. We've burned through 15 minutes basically talking about training and phishing and malware, but we do actually have...
We got 10 minutes left, man.
Well, 10 or 15. Yeah, we're trying to, increase our, quality by, and also not being an hour and a half on video, on our audio here. So, supply chain, most people believe that it's hardware based. You hear stories about, they're able to infiltrate. Chinese companies are able to, be infiltrated by their government and putting in nasty firmware and all this stuff. I'd like to take it one step further, and I know both of you work at companies that have these things. I'm thinking more along the lines of software myself, which is probably more damaging. Most of us have mobile applications on systems. Employees use their mobile phones. They all want their email. They all want their chat programs. They all want that business stuff on their device. And yet they pull the apps from the exact same store that anyone else can, which we've seen in the past is riddled with malware. And, I just wanted to discuss some of the do's and the don'ts and how to help that out. So, Ms. Berlin, do you guys have any kind of mobile device management software or policy at work?
Yeah, and we actually switched over, so anybody that's not in a technical role gets a Chromebook.
Say what now?
Anybody that isn't in a technical role gets a Chromebook.
No, I heard you the first time, but a Chromebook, really?
Yeah, as opposed to a full OS. It's way easier to manage.
Well, those Google people are going to be very mad at you by calling Chrome not a full OS, but
it's definitely not a. I mean, you can't do everything with it that you could a full blown PC.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, way more secure.
Yeah. Mr. Betcher, how about you? Do you guys have a mobile policy, or do you guys shove everybody onto not real OS Chromebooks?
Well, if you're talking mobile phones, that's like a separate network.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get on.
Well, or, like people who are using their, their personal devices for business and they're downloading like Google Play apps and such.
It's usually vice versa. They use their business devices for personal stuff. That's what gets them into trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So, I let my daughter use my computer and she downloaded Barbie porn or whatever. Not Barbie porn, Barbie malware, things like that.
You just rule 34'd that, buddy. You just rule 34'd that.
Yeah. You fix that in post for me.
Okay, the older daughter, just to clear that up.
Yeah.
So, it's just like you let your kids just use your work computer just for whatever reason. And we have some in certain countries, like a computer is expensive,
right?
So it's the only computer in the entire family, right? Is their work computer.
Yep.
So it's hard to keep people from not using them for personal use. I've had this thumb drive for 10 years. Well, it's laden with malware. What the hell are you doing? Well, they just use the same thumb drive from company to company and, personal stuff. They had a party at Bob's house and he gave them some movies or whatever. Yeah. And some key gen, all kinds of crap, that he uses for free games. And then, so there's a lot of that going around, but we just try and keep a handle on it.
Yeah.
Usually antivirus will take care of those thumb drives and stuff, but it's not as big a deal now as it was back then when you had things like config running around.
Right.
But
and sometimes you don't even have to worry about like family members or anybody else. I've had lots of customers have employees, end users or whatever, like, I'm gonna download this Java update from a random ass site that's not the same, right?
Or they get a pop-up that says, hey, they need to update their Chrome.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of like, you download an app that you have used for, across several phones, and you've known it for years. It may be like a flashlight app that you've used. And one of the things that they're seeing in the various Play stores or, the Apple app stores is that apps that are, have a lot of people using them because you can gain analytics on that. Bad guys will buy those from developers for a pittance, not a lot of money, because it's $10,000 and they had developers like, woo, I've made a lot of money. I'm going to just sell this and make yet another app somewhere. They take the app and all of a sudden the permissions change. So this flashlight app all of a sudden needs to have access to your contacts, or, it runs as root now. So it'll have access to your secure enclaves or, whatever it is on your device. And, they take it over and it starts serving malware. I mean, we've seen that in numerous, news articles talking about, them removing applications from the Play Store or what have you. Or worse, they'll take a legitimate app, crack it, and then put it on a Cydia store for the iPhone folks. Right. Or
well, isn't it harder to accomplish that kind of infection on the Apple devices? So on any iOS, isn't it harder to get your app approved and all the they do way more security and vetting and stuff than the Play Store does? I
have heard that on the Apple Store that they do more vetting, but I want to say, was it Charlie Miller that we saw, Mr. Betcher, in Austin, who had a stock market app on the iStore for the longest time, and then all of a sudden he changed it and it was harvesting information? I'll have to find that. I don't want to say anything wrong, but he had an app that looked legit on the iStore and turned it into something that was nefarious, or was able to do something. I remember
he had an app called A Hassle a Day.
Maybe that's what it was.
So it would give you a different picture of David Hasselhoff every day.
Ew. I could have gone without that.
And it was, it would totally take over your phone. And
yeah, I want to say
he has a reputation for hacking the iPhone before it came out.
Right. He was banned from being a developer on that. So yeah.
Which is interesting, because you would think they would thank him for coming out and saying, hey, I hacked your phone and here's how. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Let's fix that. No, they're like, you're banned.
Yeah, it was called InstaStock, and he said he was able to get it in there and it failed to identify the malicious program which made past the security vetting process. So if somebody like Charlie Miller, good guy, learning how to make things, he's a hacker, can do that, then that can be done by other people. At least a seemingly, not bad app like a flashlight app or one of those numerous farting apps with the button on it. You can get in. So what do you do to protect your business environment from those kinds of apps? I mean, it seems like that it's almost impossible unless you're having separate devices.
Yeah. I mean, if I have my flashlight app and then all of a sudden it needs new permissions.
Right.
Does that actually tell you, hey, this app needs more permissions than you agreed to? I'm not sure.
I think the newer versions of Android do that, and I have 801 on my Pixel 2 here, and it does tell you when you download an app if the app permissions are going to change and why they're changing.
I was going to say, I don't know that I've ever seen that happen on any of my devices, but it's possible it just did and I didn't pay attention to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do have MDM software out there that you can use to protect your devices. So if your device doesn't have a specific build of software, they can disallow you from being on there. If it's been rooted, for instance, which, a lot of people like their rooted devices, but you should be smart enough to realize it's never going to be on your business network, or shouldn't be on your business network, because it breaks the security the chain of security inside, that you're supposed to protect against. So, there are checks that will look for some of those, but a lot of mobile devices don't look for whatever software is installed on there, or, a lot of these prepaid wireless cellular operators put a bunch of junk on the phones themselves, to subsidize the cost. So,
yeah,
I don't know if there's any good answer to this.
Well, make sure your phone, your Wi-Fi at work is also being inspected by your intrusion detection system.
Right.
Because we have had several phones trigger that. Mm-hmm. And I want to say every single time we ask, where did you get the phone? Oh, I got it from Amazon, from some shady supplier.
Right.
And it ended up being a rooted phone.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
We said, okay, you're just going to have to completely restore that. Completely redo it. When they got the phone, they didn't re-image it. They just started using it.
Well, yeah.
And it came pre-infected.
I was going to say, and even if you set it back to defaults, they can make those defaults infected as well.
Right.
Right. I mean, you would have to flash it with something that isn't infected.
Yep. Yeah, I would love to talk to somebody who does mobile forensics or mobile pen testing, because I don't see a good way to fix this. Because let's say your flashlight app that's got malware in it that was bought by some bad guy is on your phone that you're using for business. Even if your company's like, oh well, we don't allow just direct access. You have to have the VPN software on your phone or whatever. Now all you've done is allowed unfettered access to the inside of your network, and your phone pretty much runs Linux, unless you're Apple or something. I don't know what the hell you're running, what voodoo that is, but you've got all the tools necessary to do OS, OSINT. You can run a ping sweep. You can do all that kind of stuff from your phone to the inside of your network and gain information, and it's a direct link right back out to to the bad guys. So,
yeah.
My only thought would be to do something like, get rid of your split tunneling if you're using a VPN solution on your phone. So that way, if somebody is doing that, your IDSs on your network would be able to see that kind of traffic. So if you've got malware in your phone and all of a sudden you've got ping sweeps and stuff going on in your network, then all of a sudden it's trying to connect out to Russia. I apologize to our Russian listeners.
Do we have Russian listeners?
Yes.
Palu. It's connecting to Palu.
Yeah, or something like that, or a known domain generating algorithm, malware thingy. Your IDS should be able to go, okay, I see the IP address. Okay, that's, Bill from Finance's phone. He's sending emails, or, he's doing all that stuff. And you could be able to better plan for that kind of naughty bits. That would be the only thing I could think of, is maybe to control the network connection while you're on your work, email or.
Well, I was going to say it may be able to read your email, but I think in these both Android and iPhone, they pretty much separate those apps. Completely separate.
They
One
do that.
Cannot read the other's data.
Well, it may not be the data that they're trying to get to necessarily. With a connection back to your company's network through VPN or whatever, you're basically inside that network now. So you have to have some kind of layered defense there. Maybe you don't allow your phones to have access to production environments. Protect your segregate that kind of stuff off, where, okay, if you're on your computer, maybe your VPN profile is different on mobile devices versus your full size computer. You wouldn't be writing code and uploading. Well, I don't know what developers do these days, but I would definitely not allow like git commits from my mobile phone if I'm trying to type code on my my clackety keyboard there. So I think there's some logical.
Wait, can you hear my keyboard when I'm typing?
No.
Okay. All right. Continue.
No,
I thought you were making fun of me.
I'm such a hard typer. That's why I'm not on the keyboard right now. But I think if you're using mobile devices, some segregation needs to happen. It needs to be definitely, even if the person is trusted. Because, I mean, locking your screen, how many people disable that? You know? Or don't have it at all, or use their fingerprint or something, you know. MDM can, you know, if you've got an MDM solution, I would definitely think about getting something like that if you have any kind of size, you know, company that has mobile devices, because it's very, very helpful to have that kind of stuff. So, so I want to get to this last bit too as well, because the mobile thing, I would actually like to talk to somebody who has, you know, successfully secured their mobile environment, or they like to assume that they're secure. So that might be something fun too. So other supply chain woes that bother me, WordPress plugins, CMS plugins, extensions, themes. My company has CMS, like most people's companies, you know, whether it be WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, Weebly, whatever. And, you know, maybe the security department isn't privy to everything that goes on inside the CMS. I mean, how many people have actually done plugin inventories to find out what's running on their marketing or sales websites?
And how many can't really, because it's hosted somewhere else?
Ah, okay. I didn't even think of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually have a fairly decent relationship with our salespeople and marketing people now, because we get alerts for WordPress plugins. So it's like, oh, you know, file resizer 1.0.0.0 is got a direct, file upload vulnerability. So I reach out to them. I'm going, hey, are we using this? Oh, I don't know. Let me go check. I'm like, shh, you probably
no, I'm telling you.
You probably should know that. So yeah, he gets back to me in 5 minutes. No, we're not using that. Okay, cool. But you know, there's a lot of plugins out there that don't get any support. They haven't been updated in years. They follow the same issues as the app stuff. It's like, oh, I built this WordPress plugin 3 years ago. I don't need it anymore. Somebody's going to pay me $5,000. I'll just give it to them. And then you get poison downloads where you've now downloaded into your own environment nasty bit of malware onto your CMS.
Great after 3 years, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so how many people actually look at the plugins and go, well, this one hasn't been updated in 3 years. Maybe we should find a replacement. You don't do that because it just works. Why fix it? And plugins can introduce cross-site scripting, SQL injections, redress errors, you know. No. But, and most of these CMSs all run on PHP, which is its own ball of fail. So, I know we're doing it at work, but we try to keep an ongoing inventory of what is running on our environment. And if you have a CMS system, I would probably suggest you looking at that too, because we get weekly updates for plugins for WordPress or, Joomla or Weebly that come up that, if you don't look at them, you don't know they exist, and you might have SQL injection on your site that you don't know about.
There's a script or something out there that you can use that just automatically updates all of your plugins, but that doesn't, it's not going to mean that it hasn't updated it with something less secure than it had before.
Right. And you have the same problem if, somebody buys the domain, they buy the app, they buy the server infrastructure that it was on. All of a sudden it's coming from, happy download file, .cn or something instead of .com, and it's the trusted version because that's the version that we've always used.
Yep. And then in the case of CCleaner, where they actually got where the developer's machine got infected and the hackers just used him to push their own update.
Yep, that's true. That has happened too. PyPy was another one of those. Those happened back in September of last year, I think. But yeah, a lot of the same stuff. It's like using malicious modules in Python repos, for instance. How many people go, pip install whatever, and we assume that that's good to go,
Yep.
So some of the things that we do when we do reviews is, we always try to I always suggest to our salespeople to buy plugins that are paid for or have a support contract. So when they're looking at them and we do our third-party reviews, hey, why are we needing this? Oh, we need an iframe for our market, show us more stuff. So, they reach out to, I don't know, one of those marketing companies like Marketo or something. That's the only one that comes to mind right now because it's the crappiest one. And I don't know if it's the crappiest one. I just know that it's got market in the name. So
Yes.
How secure can it be? But, so you get those and we ask them, why do you need it? We ask the company if it's big enough to, give us documentation on what information they're going to have access to. And after a while, if plugins aren't being updated, we ask for them to find something different. Even though it just works, it probably is not maintained, which if nobody's reporting on it, then there could be vulnerabilities that could own your systems. So also check to see if there's new owners. So if somebody has bought a plugin, they may be legit new owners, or new developers. If a bunch of new developers have come in, it might be helpful to, find out what's going on with that. So, how, Mr. Betcher, do you ever do audits of your website's CMS systems?
Yeah.
Don't lie. Come on now. You're just saying that to make me feel better.
Really?
So I don't.
Any of us?
Yeah,
We're telling people to do it, but do any of us really do that?
Oh, trust me.
Hey, I use Blogspot, so I don't have to do any of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, it's funny because, all right, so a lot of the WordPress vulnerabilities out there aren't hardly a problem of the WordPress CMS itself, or like what they call core or base. It's all plugins and extensions and stuff.
Yep. Which Blogspot has none. But
right. It's very interesting that that's the way that this runs, and WordPress gets such bad press because of the people who create extensions. So, it'd be like Windows getting flack because WinSCP has a vulnerability. Just because it's a program that runs in Windows is the one that gets blamed for it. But yeah, anyway. So do some inventory on your plugins. You'll be surprised what you've got running or how many you've got running on your boxes. And if you can't get access to it, there must be somebody in your social media market or social marketing or sales or whoever running it.
Are you advocating asset management?
I'm advocating proper inventory of the plugins, not just asset management. Speaking of, I wasn't even thinking along this, but things like Salesforce even have plugins and extensions that you can install. And, you're talking massive amounts of data for your company if you're using Salesforce in that case. So, and that's a whole other ball of awful that you can deal with if you download something. So, the only sites I was able to find that even talked about extensions that were vulnerable, Joomla has a website. That's in our show notes. WordPress WP Scan. Of course, that's the tool that you use to scan for vulnerable stuff in WordPress, but they have a list of plugins that have vulnerabilities as well. So yeah, and then of course the links to PyPy, which was
that's probably not going to be an exhaustive list, is it?
Oh my God, are you kidding? the Joomla one, I was surprised. There's pages and pages on the Joomla vulnerable extensions list. So, like for instance, Google Maps by Rumor 3.5 malicious update, HDW Player 4.0 RCE. Put that on your CMS inside your DMZ, and now somebody can do remote code exec on your Joomla implementation. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. A lot of SQL injection, real Tina RPL all versions, SQL injection, and abandonware. Abandonware is the big one. It's like we just don't want to, update it anymore. A lot of sequence cross-site scripting. So this is stuff that, opens holes in your otherwise patched Joomla. So you're like, oh, yay, we're patched. We got the latest version of Joomla. And then we're going to put a 3-year-old plugin on it. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So talk to your marketing, your sales people, your social media people at your companies. Find out what plugins they're using. And start doing some research and finding out if they're updated or updating. And, if not, maybe you start talking to your people and getting updates. So a lot of plugins, if you pay for them, you get like 1 year of service. So after that point, it may be a year and a half. And you're like, oh, we need to update again. You may have to buy the plugin again for $8, $9, $10 or something. I think we have a couple like that. But it's like, $8 to $10, and you get a new version of the plugin and another year of support. And whatever support is, I don't know. But at least you got some kind of guarantee that you're going to be able to contact somebody. So, I'm good. We have some other stuff. We have some other links. We have some news about inserting a USB drive can own a Linux box. That was kind of funny. If you're running KDE Plasma, you need to upgrade to the latest version of KDE Plasma if you're trying to insert a drive. That link's in the show notes from Bitdefender. And I wanted to talk about all the adversary generation systems. Apparently in the last 2 weeks, like 4 of them have shown up, but that's probably for another show. So, Mr. Betcher, since I normally start with Ms. Berlin, but Mr. Betcher, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to discuss, the IR podcast or LogMD or, whatever?
Yeah, you can reach me on log-md.com or on Twitter at Betcherpwned, BOETTCHER PWNED.
Right on. Miss Berlin, Dr. Professor Berlin Esquire, how would... Oh, wow.
I'm just getting ready.
How would people, if they wanted to talk to you about your class or your book, because you're a best-selling author...
and she's a goon extraordinaire.
Oh, and a goon.
Speaking of the book, did you see I have a ISBN number tattooed on me now?
I saw that with your porcupine. That's pretty awesome, though. I mean, that ISBNs, they never go away. So
I know.
The problem is when the second edition comes out, you're going to have to get yet another tattoo with yet another ISBN. Yeah,
and there's different ISBNs for like the Mobi edition and the PDF and like all of that stuff. Wow. So I'm just going to... This is like the physical copy, the first one. That's it. That's all.
You should just do like a barcode or something, and then you'll look all futuristic and stuff.
I thought about that.
Oh, okay.
But barcodes don't usually work out well as tattoos.
Really? How come?
The ink bleeds as it gets older.
Oh, okay.
And, the lines are so close together. They say, like, if you want to do that, it has to be like a full back tattoo. Because then you'll have enough white space in between that it won't make a difference.
Oh my God. But then it'll probably be unreadable if you tried to use like a QR code reader or something.
Go far away.
Okay, so instead of a barcode, could you do like a QR code?
I think probably a QR code would work a little bit better.
That would be cool.
But I was not going to try.
Oh. You know what? It's good you took the picture of the porcupine now because you can do it in 10 years to see if it still looks like a porcupine.
I hope so.
Yeah. So anyway... How would they get a hold of you if they wanted to talk to you?
So either on Slack or on Twitter at Infosister, INFOSYSTIR.
Right on. And your 3rd and 4th sessions of your class are still going on every Monday until... that's an odd question that we should ask. Are we going to take off for the holiday?
What holiday?
The one on Monday.
That's not a real holiday.
George Washington.
Don't tell Lincoln that.
The President's Day, really? That's not a real holiday.
George Washington and Abraham Lincoln are rolling
those mattress salespeople think it's a real holiday.
That's true.
You're right.
Yeah. I actually saw it worse. They had Lincoln's birthday sales here, and then they're going to have the President's Day sales.
What?
I know, right? They spent so long separating them. Now they're putting them back together. So anyway, I thought it was crazy. But it was mattress salespeople. That's why Mr. Pedger.
It was.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Brian Brake. You can follow the show at Brakesec, BRAKESEC. We have a fairly active Slack, so you can send a DM to the BreakSec Twitter DM Twitter BreakSec. Yeah, send a DM to the BreakSec Twitter. That's what it is. And we can get you hooked up on there. It's very active. We've got a lot of good people on there, a lot of good information. We have a book club. Mr. Cybuck is killing it with the book club. We have a European book club as well. JB is running that. He's in Germany. We appreciate him for running that. It runs every Sunday morning, U.S. time. It's actually in the early evening European time. But if you're interested in doing that, you can get an invite and join us. We're doing the How to Measure Anything in InfoSec?
In cybersecurity.
In cybersecurity, right. I'm enthralled with that book. I am not. Yet.
You really need to read it.
I know. Dude. I definitely. Everything I've heard is like, yes, you must read this book. So I'm going to find the time to do that because it seems to be fairly good. So, thank you to our Patreon donators. We appreciate you for helping us with offsetting costs for hosting and our Zoom, which we use to record the show and also to do our training WebExes. If you are listening to us on iTunes, please leave feedback. We'd appreciate it. And that was it. Everywhere else you can listen to the show is in our show notes, Google Play Store, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, what have you. So that was it for Breaking Down Security. I think we're probably going to take a week off because I'm going to be on vacation, unless Mr. Betcher and Miss Berlin want to get in the lab and, put out something, which I'm wholeheartedly for because, Mr. Betcher needs to get into the swing of doing his own podcast. So if he can, if you two want to get together and do something, please feel free and we'll...
That means I don't have to host it.
Well, I don't know who's second in command when I'm not here. You guys just fight it out like a mock time or something.
Wait, who has the better internet?
Oh.
Shit.
That is a true statement.
My provider actually sent me a thing saying, "Oh, look, we upgraded you to 100 meg for free."
Sweet. I upgraded to 250 and my speed didn't get any better, but I saved $60. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I went from 105 and 20 to 250 and 25, but I don't notice an increase in Comcast. So, but I'm like, I saved $60. I'm not hating on it. So, yeah.
I think I upgraded to 2. So
isn't that as fast? Because you have DSL, right? Isn't that as fast as DSL can physically go?
I think I had 6 when I lived out in Austin. 6 and 1, I think, was what I had. But yeah, we need to start a GoFundMe for him to be able to move into downtown Austin or something. I don't know. I need a trencher to run some fiber. If you know anybody with a trencher in the Austin area, let me know because we can definitely make that happen. We'll tear up some fields. We'll tear up some fields, and you can't just run one fiber because ask Google. They always run like hundreds of fibers. Yeah. I'm tapping in. Okay. All right. Well, we can make that happen. That's cool. Anyway, that was it for this week on Breakdown Security. Have a great week. Be nice to one another, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. Bye.